A hard drive can be configured as what we call a basic hard drive or a dynamic hard drive. Here we're going to look at basic drives. A basic disk comes in one of two types, either the MBR partitioning system or the GUID partitioning system. Now, MBR is the older form, and this is closely associated with the type of setup chip you have on your computer, which was called the BIOS chip in past. This was built on something called the CMOS chip, or complementary metal oxide semiconductor chip, which was difficult to write to. You had to do what we call flashing to it, which was a dangerous procedure because if anything went wrong, you could turn your computer into a brick. Now, the newer version, UEFI systems, uses a type of flash, the NOR flash chip, in order to write information to it, and it's easily readable and writable. The MBR partitioning system has the capability of 4 primary partitions on a disk, or 3 primary and 1 extended partition. If you're using the 3 primary and 1 extended partition, you could make 16, 64, 128 logical partitions on that extended partition. It depends on the version that you're working with. If you have a GUID system, you can have up to 128 primary partitions. I'm going to go now to my disk manager. I'm going to bring this down where you can see what I'm doing down here. I'm going to type diskmgmt.msc to bring up my disk manager. Let's bring this back up here and bring my window down into it. This is my disk management console. Each of these disks over here, disk 0, disk 1, and so on. If I go down, you see disk 2, disk 3, and so on. You can see that they are a basic disk. Now, this disk 0, disk 1, disk 2, and so forth are the physical disks. And then over here on the right, you can see the partitions. So this being a basic disk, you can see that I've got a primary partition and another primary partition. In this case, this second partition, the small one, is unallocated, which I left for another video later on. And then this second one down here, this is an 8 GB disk, and it's all partitioned as one basic disk. Now, what do we mean when we say basic disk? Well, one of the primary things that you need to know about a basic disk is that these partitions cannot span from one disk to another, from one physical disk to another. In other words, I can't have an 8 GB disk here and then take this 4 GB disk and make them look like a 12 GB disk. I can do that with dynamic disks, but not with basic disks.